bakery worker sees 4 abandoned children in front of his bakery, but when he gets closer, he sees they're shivering and frail. The bakery, Sweet Haven, was nestled in the heart of a quiet town in Oregon. Winter had wrapped the streets in a thick layer of snow, and the early morning air carried a biting chill. It was a day like any other for Ethan, a man in his mid-30s who had taken over the bakery after his grandmother passed away. Sweet Haven was more than just a bakery. It was a piece of his family's legacy, and a place where Ethan poured his love and energy every day. Ethan stepped outside to shovel the snow that had piled up overnight. As he approached the front of the bakery, he stopped in his tracks, noticing a large cardboard box sitting on the steps. Curious, he leaned down to investigate. When he lifted the lid, he gasped at what he saw inside. 4 children, ranging from a toddler barely a year old to an older girl who seemed about 5, huddled together for warmth. Their faces were pale, their lips trembling, and their eyes filled with fear. Ethan's heart raced. "What on earth are you doing out here?" he muttered, his breath visible in the cold air. The oldest child, a girl with dark hair and wide, frightened eyes, clutched the toddler protectively. The others, a boy and another girl, looked too scared to move. Ethan crouched down and extended his hand cautiously. "Hey there, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. Let's get you inside where it's warm." The older girl flinched but didn't resist when Ethan carefully lifted the youngest child. He gestured for the others to follow, and they hesitantly trailed behind him. Once inside, the bakery's warmth enveloped them, and Ethan immediately fetched blankets from the storage room. He wrapped each child snugly and prepared warm milk and slices of bread. Placing the food on the table, he said gently, "Eat something. You must be starving." The oldest girl hesitated, her wary eyes watching him closely, but eventually took the cup he offered. The other children followed her lead, nibbling on the bread and sipping the milk cautiously. Ethan sat across from them, his mind racing with questions. Who were these kids? How had they ended up abandoned on his doorstep in the freezing cold? As the children ate, Ethan noticed a strange symbol embroidered on their tattered coats, a triangle with a peculiar letter inside. It struck him as odd and out of place. When he touched the patch on the oldest girl's coat to examine it, she recoiled sharply and screamed, "Don't touch it, they'll come." Startled, Ethan pulled back. "Who's coming?" he asked, his voice calm but urgent. The girl shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "It's okay," Ethan said softly, not pressing her further. He decided to call his friend Clara, who worked at the local police department. Clara answered after a few rings, her voice groggy from sleep. "Ethan? What's going on?" "Clara, I need you to come to the bakery right now," Ethan said, his tone serious. "I found 4 kids outside, abandoned in a box. They're scared out of their minds, and there's something strange about this whole thing." Clara's voice immediately sharpened. "I'll be there as soon as I can." While waiting for Clara, Ethan kept a close eye on the children. The oldest girl, who had finally introduced herself as Sophia, seemed to be the spokesperson for the group. She whispered to Ethan, "Please don't let them find us." Her words sent a chill down his spine. Who was she afraid of? When Clara arrived, she took one look at the children and immediately understood the gravity of the situation. She examined the strange symbols on their clothing and listened to Ethan's account. "Ethan, these symbols, they're familiar. I've seen them in reports about a trafficking ring operating across state lines. This could be serious." Clara crouched down to speak to Sophia. "Sweetheart, do you know who left you here? Can you tell me anything about where you came from?" Sophia hesitated, clutching her siblings tightly. "They told us not to talk. They said they'd hurt us if we did." Clara's expression hardened, but she kept her voice gentle. "You're safe now. No one will hurt you here. We'll make sure of that." Ethan and Clara decided to move the children to a small room upstairs in the bakery, away from prying eyes. Ethan set up makeshift beds with mattresses and blankets, while Clara contacted her colleagues to gather more information about the trafficking ring. That evening, as Ethan was cleaning up the bakery, the doorbell jingled. A tall man in a sharp black suit entered, his polished demeanor unsettling. "Good evening," the man said smoothly, his voice carrying a practiced charm. "I'm passing through town and heard your bakery has the best pastries. Mind if I try one?" Ethan forced a smile, trying to keep his nerves in check. Of course. What can I get you? The man's eyes wandered around the bakery, lingering briefly on the staircase leading upstairs. An apple tart, perhaps, he said, his tone casual but his gaze sharp. Ethan quickly prepared the tart and handed it to the man, who paid without breaking eye contact. You have a cozy place here, the man remarked. It must attract a lot of interesting people. Ethan's stomach churned. Just regular customers, he replied, trying to sound nonchalant. The man smiled faintly, then left, but not before glancing once more at the stairs. Ethan's instincts screamed that this was no ordinary customer. That night, Ethan shared his concerns with Clara. She immediately arranged for extra patrols around the bakery. Ethan, you need to be careful, she warned. If this man is connected to the ring, he won't give up easily. Over the next few days, the tension in the bakery grew. Ethan noticed a black car parked down the street, its occupants seemingly keeping watch. The children grew more anxious, especially Sophia, who frequently looked out the window, her small face etched with worry. Ethan, Clara said during one of her visits, we've identified the man who came to your bakery. His name is Victor, and he's a key figure in the trafficking ring. We're building a case, but we need more time. What do I do in the meantime? Ethan asked, his frustration evident. Keep the kids safe and don't let your guard down, Clara replied. One evening, as Ethan was closing up, there was a loud knock at the door. He peered through the window and saw a man he didn't recognize. The man claimed to be a friend of Clara's, sent to help keep watch. Though hesitant, Ethan let him in after confirming his credentials. The man introduced himself as Greg, a local security expert. We need to move the kids, Greg said. It's only a matter of time before Victor makes a move. Ethan reluctantly agreed. Late that night, they bundled the children into Greg's car and drove them to a safe house outside town, coordinated by Clara's team. The house was secluded, with reinforced security measures in place. For the first time in days, Ethan felt a glimmer of hope. At the safe house, Sophia confided in Ethan. I know where they keep the other kids, she whispered. It's a big building near the river. It smells like wood and metal. Ethan relayed this information to Clara, who immediately launched an investigation. Using Sophia's description, the police located a warehouse near the river and prepared a raid. Ethan stayed with the children, trying to keep them calm and occupied. The raid was a success. Clara's team rescued several children and arrested Victor along with his accomplices. The operation dismantled the trafficking ring, bringing an end to their heinous activities. When Clara delivered the news to Ethan and the children, relief washed over them. Sophia clung to Ethan, tears streaming down her face. You kept your promise, she said softly. A few weeks later, arrangements were made for the children to be placed with loving foster families. Sophia's relatives were found, and though she was reluctant to leave Ethan, he assured her it was the best thing for her and her siblings. You'll always have a home here, Ethan told her as they said their goodbyes. Months passed, and Sweet Haven returned to its peaceful routine. One day, Ethan received a letter from Sophia. In it, she wrote about her new family and how much she missed him. She promised to visit one day, signing the letter with a small drawing of a heart. Ethan smiled, folding the letter carefully. Sweet Haven had become more than a bakery. It was a symbol of hope and second chances, a reminder that even in the darkest times, compassion and courage could make all the difference.